What's going on, y'all? So I had everything planned out. I had I, I did all my prep, and then I literally 30 seconds ago just clicked on a website where I get a lot of news from and got the news that Karmelo Anthony has been um, Carmelo Anthony has been sentenced to 35 years in prison, and he will be eligible for parole in 17 and a half years. Wow. I know you saw the title of the show and the thumbnail, and we're going to get into all of that, but this just blows my mind. So we got that we're going to talk about. We got the LA mayor's race and the shenanigans going on there. And just this is amazing to me. This is insane. Anyway, we got a lot to get into, so let's get after it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to the Mission Ready Men Briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where faith in God sets the standard and masculinity is not toxic. Today is Tuesday, June 9th, in the year of our Lord 2026. And do we have a lot to get into? And we're going to. But first, please do me a favor and hit like and subscribe and share and comment if you're in the chat. Help us to break out of the chokehold that the algorithm has us in. So do all the algorithm things. We would really appreciate that. And also, just so you know, we've talked about it before, but this show is also on the Mission Ready Men Briefing individual channel. And we would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and check us out over there as well. Same show, same content, just a different way to reach us. So do us a favor and check us out over there as well. And if you've been trying to watch us on Facebook and haven't been in a while, we've been having some problems over there with streaming. Not sure what it is. We've tried a few different things that haven't resolved the problem. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I will continue to try, but bear with us as we try to figure that out. And until we do, going forward, I will post the link to the show where you can watch it on demand. And we're on Rumble as well, just in case you're not a fan of any of the typical social media streaming platforms. All right. We got a lot to get into, and we're gonna get after it. I can't believe really that he was only sentenced to 35 years. That is a gift to the prosecution, to the defense, because the defense, from what I've read, was atrocious. And we're gonna get into that a little bit, but 35 years is just mind-boggling to me. he could have faced up to life with the possibility of parole just because he was 17 when he committed this crime. So there's that. But 35 years, just especially with parole and eligibility in 17 and a half years, come on. What is that? I think I know what it is. I suspect people seeing all of the protesters outside the courthouse and all of the racial animosity that's been going on as a result of this case. I think much like what happened in Minneapolis with Derek Chauvin, I think the jury got scared. I have absolutely no insight into that whatsoever. That's just my personal opinion based on paying attention to this kind of stuff for the past number of years and seeing how these things play out. That's my gut. So if you have another explanation for it, by all means. And if you've only been paying attention to the Black racist podcasters and commentators who have been spewing a bunch of lies, well, then spare me, because I don't want to hear it from you. If you've been paying attention to the actual case, if you've read the actual news stories from people who are inside the courtroom, and you still think that they got it right, okay, well then we can have that discussion. I think you're wrong, but at least if you're coming at it from that perspective, we can have that discussion. But it's just despite the fact that I understand what the jury was doing when they came down with this verdict, it still doesn't make any sense to me. It still doesn't make any sense to me. But let's go ahead and get through some of this, because by now I'm sure you know, if you've been paying attention, you know the facts of the case. He was Anthony was in a tent he shouldn't have been in. He was asked to leave. He was asked to leave numerous times, according to witnesses. Some of the witnesses for the defense actually supported what the prosecution was saying, which is why I said that this was a gift to the defense, because it was shoddy at best. And we're going to get into why I think that is too here in a little bit. They called 6 or 7 witnesses, depending on which report you believe. But let's just call it 7, because the prosecution called 21. So let's just keep the numbers even. But they didn't have him testify, which destroyed any possibility of a self-defense claim, because the prosecution presented a pretty cut and dry case, and even the defense's witnesses supported what the prosecution was saying most of the time. And so for him to not testify suggests that they knew, either his lawyers advised him not to because they knew he was going to just destroy his own case on the stand, or they wanted to roll the dice with this type of verdict, which in that respect, based on the sentence that came down, turned out to be a pretty good gamble for them, I guess. Even the defense's own witnesses corroborated the statements that he was asked to leave repeatedly and didn't leave. He taunted Austin and others who wanted him to leave. Touch me and find out, he said, was corroborated by both sides. It was also corroborated by both sides that as Anthony was trying to provoke a confrontation, he explicitly said, Austin Metcalf explicitly said, "I'm not going to fight you, dude." So any chance of a self-defense claim would have had to have come from Anthony's testimony. Now, the defense tried to claim that because Austin Metcalf was bigger, because he was outnumbered in this tent, that he feared for his life. But again, that goes away because Austin said he wasn't interested in that, wasn't trying to fight him. So he had no reasonable expectation of any type of serious bodily injury as a result of a confrontation with this bigger guy. Use of force training will tell you that size can be a weapon, and so can numbers. But when there's no aggression, and even one of the defense's own witnesses, when presented with the video evidence, had to walk back his statement that he was surrounded and all this other stuff. And the thing is, the witnesses that said that corroborated the prosecution's claims were Black teenagers, which we're going to get into the whole racial aspect of this here in a minute. But I just want to talk about the defense here for a second. They had an uphill battle from the start because of everything that had been publicized about this case. But I have to wonder, when this case first kicked off, and we talked about it when it happened, his family raised a ton of money through a GoFundMe, or maybe it was a Give, Send, Go, I can't remember which. One of those fundraising sites. They raised a ton of money for his defense. And they ended up spending it on a house, on cars, on video games, all kinds of nonsense. So that makes me wonder, was this defense so shoddy because they couldn't afford anything better? Because they blew all that money? I mean, that seems to be the only logical explanation for it. They called no expert witnesses. They only called seven witnesses altogether. So they must not have put a whole lot of time because they weren't getting paid. Again, I have no insight into that. I don't have any information. That's just my experience and gut from paying attention to this type of stuff for years. And again, if you have a differing opinion, please, by all means, feel free to enlighten me. I would love to hear it. But let's get into, because we can talk about all the legal maneuvering and all that stuff, and you can get that anywhere. But I want to talk about the racial divide, animosity that's being pushed right now behind this case. And Savannah Hernandez was one of the reporters who was on the ground outside the courthouse reporting on some of this stuff. And there have been some others, Brianna Morello and a few other people have been doing some pretty good work in publicizing all this stuff that's going on. And I mentioned earlier some of the race hustling Black commentators who have been peddling a bunch of lies, like Tariq Nasheed and some guy who calls himself the Amazing Lucas and Willie D and a few others. They have been spreading all these lies, and people who are not actually reading news stories, who are not actually following it in legitimate news sites, are falling for this stuff. And that's why you have people outside the courthouse where this trial was taking place, saying stuff like this.
Cracker is a dead cracker. Only good cracker is a dead cracker. Only good cracker is a dead cracker.
What do you say to that? What do you say to that? And it's that type of stuff that gets perpetrated, that gets propagated throughout the community because of people, like I said, Tariq Nasheed. I saw some of his posts on X. Like, really? Where are you coming up with that stuff? Because it's not in any news story that I've read. And he's posting, and maybe it wasn't him, but some people, they're posting videos of people who are just spouting all kinds of nonsense that is completely unsupported by what is actually happening and being reported by people who are in the courthouse, witnessing the proceedings and reporting on it. And I saw some of this stuff and I was like, well, wait a minute. Is that true? And so I went looking, and none of it is anywhere close to the truth. I mean, sometimes you see a lie that has like the tiniest grain of truth, and then they just extrapolate all kinds of other nonsense. None of that. It just all complete fabrications. And when you start spreading those fabrications, stuff like this is what happens. People start talking about, and I'm not even going to repeat what he said because it's not worth it, but you get the idea. Just total and complete nonsense. And like I said, Savannah Hernandez was on the scene, and she interviewed this one person. She interviewed a bunch of people, but I want to show you this one because this was one of the first reports that I saw when this trial started, and just wow.
If evidence does come out that Karmelo was not in fact fighting for his life when he stabbed and killed Austin Metcalf, do you think that the Black community will accept that?
If evidence shows that he did not, no, we're going to stand by ours regardless. They stand by theirs. We're going to stand by ours regardless. I'm a mother first. I'm a Black mother. Let me put that on there. I'm an African-American mother. So I have to put away my color first and step into the motherhood. Nobody wants to see their child slain. So I do want to send prayers to Austin Metcalf, their family. But at the end of the day, I got to think like, okay, what did you do to him or whatever to cause this to happen, the reaction? We got to start taking accountability for our kids. Because then again, if my kid, that's why it's a catch-22, if my kid was Karmelo and I feel like his back was up against the wall, well, I'm going to tell you straight up, better mine than yours. Better mine than yours. So either way it go, everybody loses. A Black boy allegedly murdered, and I say allegedly, heavy on the allegedly murdered somebody. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, this is about race. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, they wouldn't give a damn.
This this person is the epitome of ignorance, because there is no way anyone paying the least bit of attention to what's been going on in the world, in the country, with a couple of firing neurons, can actually believe that if a white kid stabbed a black kid and killed him, that nobody would care. Because there would be riots in the streets. There would be riots all over the Summer of Love, George Floyd, anyone? Crackhead, thug, drug dealer dies of an overdose, but because he was being restrained by a cop at the time, need I go on? These people make me sick. They really do. This tribalism, this racial tribalism. I mean, at some point, something is going to have to give. And I pray that these people find Jesus. I just hope that it doesn't come down to somebody having to help them meet him. And that sounds harsh, I know, but I mean, it's coming down to that. And I hate that I actually think that right now. I don't want to. But what else are you going to do? And this was another one that was just so frustrating. So absolutely frustrating. This is a short one, but you'll understand.
What do you want us to do? What do you want us to do at this point? What? I'm lost for words. I don't know what to do. I got 5 boys. I don't know what. I ain't got nothing to tell them no more. You can't walk away no more.
Rest in peace, Trayvon Martin.
Let me ask you this right now.
Did you catch the dude at the end? Rest in peace, Trayvon Martin. I mean, come on. Just the epitome of ignorance. But you know what you tell your kids? You know what you tell your 5 boys? Don't stab people because you think they dissed you somehow. Stay in school, get an education. Don't rob, don't steal. Go to church, read your Bible. There's a whole bunch of things you can tell them that will keep them alive. Absolutely ridiculous. And I talked about, I'm gonna get off this here in a second because we could spend the entire 90 minutes on this subject alone, and I do not want to do that. So I'm just gonna end it with this one because I talked about how this could come to a violent head. And again, that's not something I advocate for. I don't want that. Nobody in their right mind wants that. But people are provoking it. And this took place, this also took place outside of the courthouse after the verdict.
A white boy been before an all-black jury. Tell us, media. Tell us, white folks. When has a white boy been before an all-black jury? Never.
How is it murder?
This is rugby. You know why? You know why? Because you know what? Whatever the verdict is, he got justice. Because he got to go before a jury of 6 or 12 instead of being buried by 6. We got to stand up. We're going to keep, that's right. You know what? Let this be the mark in the sand. Exactly. Come on, sister. Come on, sister. She right. This is a war. This is a war. This is a war. And it's been going on.
She said, this is a war. Nobody in their right mind wants that. But if people don't start to realize that this is a result of their own actions, like I said, like the woman said, what do I tell my boys? Stop robbing and killing and shooting people. Stop picking fights because somebody dissed you. Stop getting multiple women pregnant and not being around for your kids. Stop having kids out of wedlock. Maybe start there with some of the basics. How's that? But if you keep going this way, if you keep doing the same things you always do, nothing's going to change. And this has nothing to do with the white man and has nothing to do with white supremacy. It has nothing to do with any of that. This has to do with the choices that you make, the lessons that you teach your children. And if these are the lessons that you're teaching your children, nothing's going to change, short of divine intervention. And of course, we all pray for the change, but people have to be willing to do it. And it seems like the only thing they're willing to do is talk about how grieved they are and how oppressed they are and all this stuff that is external to them, when they can be actually making the changes themselves. But that's too much to ask, I guess. All right, let's move on, because like I said, I could spend the entire show going on and on about that. So like I said, you saw the title and thumbnail. So we're going to get into all of the shenanigans going on with the LA mayor's race and the LA governor's race to a lesser extent. The fact that Spencer Pratt was ahead of Raman by so much and then lost because these late night ballot drops were so disproportionately in favor of her. And there were reports that he got 0 votes, but that turned out to be a bit of a clerical error or a technical glitch. He got some, but of course, like I said, disproportionate with respect to how many she got. it's almost as though the fix was in. Almost, right? Because surely, since everything that they're doing is legal, that there can't be any possibility of fraud, right? And all things being equal, I would love to be able to say, well, yeah, there's no evidence, so just let it go. But here's the thing. When you set up a system that is designed basically to allow fraud, you have to, for you to suggest that there is no fraud going on is beyond stupid. And let's just lay out some of the issues that are at hand here. California sends out ballots to everyone who is registered. Universal mail-in ballots. They register pretty much anyone who has contact with the DMV, which includes illegal aliens, because they get their free state-issued IDs, where they don't ask you if you're a legal resident or a citizen or not. So you have that. Then you have ballot harvesting, where anyone can pick up a bunch of ballots and turn them in, or not turn them in if they go to a district that is not in their favor. Anyone who works for a PAC, anyone who works for pretty much anybody can harvest these ballots. And if they go to if they work for a Democrat PAC and they go into a heavily Republican district, they can pick up those ballots and then just forget to turn them in, or burn them, as in the case with some of the ballots early on in this process. And then with the mail-in ballots, there's no signature verification. There's no ID verification. You can just make a mark. No signatures, no signatures required. I saw this. I might not have saved it because I might have just passed by it. No, here we go. I saw this, and this is a legitimate, actual mail-in ballot. And this vote was counted. This is, I know it's kind of tough to see, but this is a drawing of Kirby. I think it's Kirby, in the signature of the voter. Pictures or symbols can be used as valid signatures. And since we have this symbol on file, it is considered valid. And you expect us to believe that because this is legal, that there's no evidence of fraud? Really? That's your position? And I've seen so many commentators who like to think of themselves as straight journalists and down the middle and fair and balanced and all the journalism things. I do not understand how they can look at this system and just say, well, there's no evidence. And not only everything that we just laid out, but ballots can come in up to a week after the election day. And contrary to what you've heard, they do not have to be postmarked because of the ballot drop boxes. They just have to have the date that you put on there. That date just has to be before election day. And so if some operative comes across a bunch of ballots that haven't been filled out, all they got to do is write the day of the election or any date before that, toss it in a drop box, and boom, that vote will be counted. Because think about this. With all of the votes that came in, Karen Bass, she didn't get, her votes didn't move. Her percentage didn't move. It stayed steady the entire time. Whereas Nithya Raman, hers went drastically up and Spencer Pratt's went drastically down. This is a representation of how the votes were coming in, and this was taken before she actually overtook him in the vote count. But you'll the representation still remains the same. These dots are all the vote drops, and it's almost identical. The percentage that she got that he lost is almost identical. Whereas look at Karen Bass, stayed the exact same. And you really expect us to believe that there was no shenanigans going on? Really? Absolutely ridiculous. And here's the other thing. She conceded when she was down so far on election night. She conceded. Like I said, almost like the fix was in. And this is a pattern across blue states that have these ridiculously lax voter rules. No voter ID. Votes can be counted up to a week after the election. And here's the other thing. It turns out that California, Califalia, as BZ likes to say, has, as if we didn't already know this, but it's come out that they had dirty voter rolls, meaning they had homeless people registered at fake homeless shelters and used those fake homeless shelters as addresses. These homeless shelters have no beds, so they can't be used as an address. And there were 7,600 voters tied to these homeless shelters and service providers. And they all apparently voted for Nithya Raman. Interesting. And again, all of this is 100% legal according to California state law. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And yet totally believable. This is, and they really will call us conspiracy theorists and say that we're stupid for questioning this. Because just because it's legal doesn't mean it's the right thing. Just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should do a thing. And this scheme was designed from the ground up to allow for this very thing to happen. It was designed so that they could see how many votes they needed at the end of election night and then make sure those votes came in. I mean, Mussolini said so himself. He said there was a break the glass scenario so that they could make sure that Spencer Pratt didn't win. I played that for you the last time we were together. They really think that we're stupid. And then if they don't think that we're stupid, they just don't care. They just don't care because it's legal. And so now LA gets to choose between commie Karen Bass and ultra commie Nithya Raman. And LA is toast. LA is at this point, if you're still in California and you can leave, you need to leave. Seriously. Because don't think for a second that just because Steve Hilton did well in his primary that he has a chance. Because just like what happened with Spencer Pratt in the primary, that was just a primary. Do you really think they're going to allow a Republican to be governor in California when they have this ridiculous scheme in place? They have this ridiculous voting scheme in place to make sure that a Republican doesn't win. And I genuinely, at this point, I do feel bad for Republicans who are there, conservatives who are there, who can't leave and who actually vote the right way. Don't vote for this communist garbage. Because the machine that's in place is doing everything it can to wipe out their vote. And so unless some California billionaires get together and start mobilizing and putting some stuff in place to effectively combat this, And even if they do, it's going to take a while to build up that infrastructure to compete with the machine that the left has going on there. And are any billionaires going to want to try and do that when they can just move to Texas and Florida and Arkansas and Tennessee? But congrats, leftists. You have secured another 4 years of incompetent, ridiculous leadership. And all we can do is just sit back with our popcorn and watch the tragedy unfold. But I will say this. I've said many times, when stuff like this happens, that short of divine intervention, it's not going to change. This is why Christians cannot surrender the public square. It's for reasons exactly like this. Because I know that there are a ton of mega churches out in LA and in California, all over the state. It's great that they pack in hundreds of thousands of people every Sunday. But if they're not mobilizing their congregation to actually do something, then they're not being an effective church. Light doesn't retreat from darkness. It confronts it. And those churches, those pastors need to start confronting it and discipling their flock to confront it as well. That's where the divine intervention is going to come from. God's not just going to snap his fingers and change it. He needs change agents on the ground to actually do it. And if those pastors and those churches aren't doing it, that's surrender. All right, y'all, let's get a word in from our sponsor. And today's show is sponsored by Carry Girl Gear. So fellas, like I've said before, summer is here. It's the perfect time to get your wife or your girlfriend some great summer gear, t-shirts, tank tops, all of it. And great designs, comfortable clothes that your wife or your girlfriend or your daughter would love to wear. So head over to carrygirl.com and check out all the great designs over there. Not just t-shirts and tanks, but drinkware and accessories, all the stuff that your wife or your girlfriend or your daughter would absolutely love. And if you don't give good gifts, go ahead and get yourself a gift card and let them pick it out themselves. And that way everybody wins. So head over to carrygirl.com today. All right. All right, I'm actually going to stick on this, but take it in a little bit different direction, because it's important. I talked about Christians mobilizing. But the fact is, Republicans are notorious for not turning out for elections. Notorious. That's why Virginia is on the trajectory it's on. And some people will say, well, California is a leftist run state, so it's no surprise that a Republican can't win in California. And to a certain extent, that may be true. But that wasn't always the case. Republicans, conservatives stopped turning out for their elections. And they surrendered. Overall turnout in LA County was around 25, 26%, which is typical for an off-year election. But that is devastating if you don't mobilize. And Republican registration in LA is under 15%. And so the fact that Spencer Pratt had the turnout that had the results that he had is remarkable. And without the late night shenanigan-filled vote drops, he would have been in the runoff, and then we would have had a chance to mobilize in time for the November election. Proverbs 29:2 says, when the righteous thrive, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people groan. And the people who are groaning right now in LA, they really only have themselves to blame. The ones that didn't actually get out and vote. Every election, every law reflects somebody's values, and every election reflects whose values get enforced by law. And right now, the law is that anyone can mail-in ballots get sent out to everyone, and those ballots can be harvested and filled out by anyone. And whose values do you think those are? Not conservatives, because they retreated. Staying at home is not. Republicans who stay home elect Democrats. It's that simple. I've been saying that for a decade or more. Staying home is not neutral. Staying home is a choice. And it's abdicating the mandate to seek justice and defend the vulnerable and steward the cities. And too many Republicans, too many conservatives have abdicated that responsibility. Look at what happened in New York. Zohran Mamdani, the first Muslim mayor, won with less than 50% in a very low turnout race. But he had 95% of the Muslims vote for him. They mobilized. And that isn't a very high turnout for the Muslim community. Why? Well, we've talked about it before, because they want to take over. And this is not about that. So we can talk about that another time, and we will. But the low conservative turnout creates a vacuum. And in deep blue cities like LA and Chicago and New York, small organized groups like Muslims or any ethnic or religious or ideological group can have a significant impact. I mean, just look at what's happening in New York, and look at what's happening in Texas. This is not fear mongering. This is pattern recognition, recognizing that recognizing that political Islam, their civic engagement, far exceeds that of Christians. And even if you leave the Islamic piece out of it and just talk about Democrats versus conservatives, leftists versus conservatives, same thing. Especially now in the era of Trump, where he just motivates these leftists to get out there and vote. And because conservatives like what he's doing, they become apathetic and just say, oh, well, things are great now. Well, no. Things are better now. But if you mess around and don't vote when the next election comes around and a leftist gets in office, that is going to be a disaster. Republicans who stay home elect Democrats. It's that plain and simple. And the low turnout doesn't just elect terrible mayors like Mamdani and Mayor Mohawk, or Karen Bass or Nithya Raman, whichever one ends up winning that election. But it invites a parallel power structure that in time, if we ignore it, is going to take over. And we're seeing that right now in New York and Dallas and Houston with Islam. And if we don't turn out, we're just surrendering. Churches actually used to be the place where civic engagement took place. That used to be where the towns would get together and decide what was best for the community. And churches have completely abandoned that notion. It's not inevitable. We can get back to it, but we have to want to do that. Because if not, if we choose not to, what we're seeing happen in New York and Dallas and Houston is going to happen all over the place. And what's happening in LA is giving Islam the blueprint for when they decide they're going to take over. when they decide they're going to run their Islamists for city council and all that, all you got to do is look. All you got to do is look at where it's happening and how it started. And none of us want that. None of us want that. Proverbs tells us that the prudent see danger and take refuge. The simple keep going and suffer. Which one are you going to be? It's time. It's way past time to show up for our cities, our communities, our children, and restore the ordered liberty that has been ordained by God. And we can do it. We just have to want to. All right, we got about a half an hour left, and there's I was going to save this till the end, but I think I want to spend a little bit more time on it. I talked about Scott Pelley last week, and I talked about how he said something about him being in combat and all this other stuff, and I said that I wanted the audio, but I didn't have it yet. Well, apparently it hadn't been released yet, and it has been. And it's even worse. It's even worse than I thought. Before we get in, before we go there, though, well, I want to save that combat nonsense for last, because he made another comment about media bias. And he was incredulous that anybody could possibly think that the media was biased in any way, or especially CBS. And so let's take a look at that, and then.
What was the feeling about that particular opening salvo to the team?
She, I am told, said something to the effect of, "Why do you think the country thinks you're biased?" But she didn't offer any kind of a metric. You know, what's your metric? Why do you think so? Do you have a poll? Is there market research? What are you talking about? Because we certainly didn't believe that.
What was the feeling about?
He wanted a metric. He didn't think there was any possible reason why anyone could possibly think that the media was biased or that CBS was biased. And so he didn't think there were any metrics out there. Well, Gallup did a poll. Gallup has been polling trust in mass media since 1972, or at least that's what this graphic shows us. And I know it's kind of tough to see, but this graph right here, America's trust in mass media, this green right here is a great deal, and then blue is not very much, and this dotted line is none at all. And so in 1972, it was under 10% that believed or that didn't have much trust in media. And it's almost identical from 1972 on, how the distrust increased and the trust decreased. It's almost identical. And at this point, this is as of 2025, trust in media is, people who have a great deal of trust in media is down to about 28%. And the people who have no trust in media is up to 34%. And the people who had not very much is at 36, from somewhere around 23, 24% back in the 70s. There's your metric, Scott. People do not trust the media and haven't. That trust has been on the decline for a very long time. It started to go down in the mid-late 70s. So there's your metric. There's your market research, buddy. Have at it. And in case you think, well, that's mass media, that doesn't apply to CBS. Okay. Well, if that's your position, I promise I have it. Here we go. This is from All Sides. And I thought I had a larger picture. But that one right there shows that CBS leans left and is minus 1 point, I believe, 6%. Oh, here we go. Here's a better view of it. CBS News leans left, according to All Sides, which aggregates and does surveys of media bias. So there's your market research. People don't trust mass media, and people don't trust CBS, or they trust it to lean left. We'll put it that way. So once again, he's just wrong. But here's the big one. Here's the one that really, when I heard it, I just couldn't believe that he actually said this. So let's go ahead and do this.
Worn the uniform, but I've been in combat for this country in Afghanistan and Iraq, Kuwait, been shot at, spent nights in foxholes filling up with water in the desert.
Come on, man.
I'm not aware that the President of the United States has ever done any of those things for his country. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You become a journalist because you love the First Amendment. You become a journalist because you love the country. And while all the other descriptions that the president used about me might be applicable, not that one.
He's crying. He's crying because the president said that He called him a bunch of names. As it's President Trump, so you can just imagine. But anyway, he was not in combat in any way, shape, or form. And I even doubt he was, in any of the times he was embedded with our soldiers, that he was in any kind of foxhole. I seriously doubt that. Certainly not one filling up with water in the desert. Just no. This is stolen valor and an insult to everyone who did wear the uniform that he acknowledged he never wore. He was, in those times that he was embedded, he was delivering reports, probably from a hotel lobby somewhere, probably from somewhere close enough to hear if there were any firefights, but far enough away to not be in any danger. And so for him to say that is just beyond insulting and beyond I will not be surprised if some soldiers actually do confront him at some point. I'm not advocating that they confront him or teach him any kind of lesson, but it wouldn't surprise me if it happened. Because that's just something you don't do. And to sit there and fake tears as if he was wounded by the president's remarks about him. I think he said something about him not caring about the country, which is what prompted that whole thing. He doesn't care about the country. He doesn't care about the country. He doesn't care about the First Amendment. He cares about his multi-million-dollar salary that he just lost. Somebody, I think it was Buzz Patterson on Twitter, posted a story. I didn't actually save it, but posted a story about how he believes he was in, I want to say Kuwait, with Scott Pelley, and he and his producers basically tried to give them orders and say, we need to go here to look at this weapons depot where insurgents were stealing ammo. And they told him no. And they got all huffy and tried to give him another order, tell him to go to this other one. And they said, no, it hasn't been secured. We're not going to put I'm not going to put my men's lives in danger so that you can get on camera and tell a story. And apparently, Mr. Pelley and his producer got pretty mad and stormed off. Entitled, I hope he never gets another job on another network. I hope he's relegated to the Don Lemon, Jim Acosta realm, because he doesn't deserve it. Brian Williams is another one. I hope he actually goes beyond it and ends up in the Brian Williams area, because as far as I know, he's not doing anything anymore after his lying about what he was doing during Hurricane Katrina. These reporters are just useless. Absolutely useless. All right, I wanted to get that in there because I just wanted to follow up on that now that I had the audio. And he actually said, I've been in combat for this country. Shut up. No, you haven't. All right. Well, let me move on because that's just annoying. All right, so we've talked about James Talarico quite a bit. And they're trying to rebrand this guy as some sort of ultra masculine. Well, not even so much that. They're trying to redefine masculinity so that he fits. That's what they're doing. He is a 37-year-old seminarian. He won the Democrat Senate primary. He thinks that God is non-binary. He thinks that there are 6 genders. He thinks that eating barbecue on the campaign trail on a photo op is a flex. He's just, oh, bless his heart. And anyone who has read the Bible, a Christian, a Bible-believing Christian who's read the Bible, can't sit this one out. They can't, because he has been rewriting the Bible for clicks, for likes. And people who haven't read the Bible actually believe some of the nonsense that he's spouting. And Paxton versus Talarico, the Republican establishment is getting behind Paxton and hitting Talarico hard on his on his Talarico persona. I can't remember who actually coined that term, Talarico. Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but he's actually leaned into it and he's selling merch that says Talarico. That's, again, that's not a flex, dude. That's not a flex. He's giving this portrayal of Christianity and of Jesus as this mild, meek, rainbow-loving, all-inclusive Jesus and Christianity, but that's not what the Bible says. Scripture has given us a picture of the Lion of Judah who makes our whip and flips tables. And that's not James Talarico by any stretch. I think it was President Trump who said he looked like Alfred E. Newman from Mad Magazine. And after he said it, I couldn't unsee it. It's so true. But he's, like I said, he's trying to rewrite Scripture to fit his worldview and fit his narrative. He said that there were 6 genders. Well, Genesis 1:27, I guess that was a typo or something. Because God created male and female. And that's it. At least that's what my Bible says. Now, whatever Bible he's reading from that says there's 6 genders, well, again. Anyway, he actually said that women were neighbors with a uterus. You can't make this stuff up. Now he's trying to rewrite his quote unquote cringy past, his cringy comments. He 6 genders, non-binary. I don't understand how this guy actually got to this level. I really don't. And this is the same guy who, when he was a teacher, was texting 13-year-old girls at midnight when he was 23. So then there's that. He talks about he's trying to counter the masculinity attacks that are coming his way. From people like Ben Shapiro and Allie Beth Stuckey and Michael Knowles. He's trying to counter it with saying that true masculinity is servant leadership. And to a certain extent, in that respect, he's right. I've said the same thing. But the way he's going about it is just completely off the wall. Completely off the wall. It's theological contortionism is what he's doing. He's twisted himself into all kinds of knots and twisting the scripture into all kinds of knots to fit his worldview. And that's just not how it works. Now, it also seems that this man of faith, we can add liar to his list of accomplishments or failings. And he once put forth legislation to try and eliminate oil and gas, the oil and gas industry. And here he is a couple of days ago, I believe, saying the complete opposite.
Family members who have worked in the oil and gas industry. We have to protect good paying oil and gas jobs. I've had family members who have worked in the oil and gas industry. I went to Texas public schools funded by Texas Oil and Gas. So I owe a lot to the industry. And I know that some of these jobs keep whole families afloat. Sure. And so I want to protect our status as an energy leader.
It wasn't that long ago when you wanted to eliminate oil and gas altogether. And I'm actually kind of surprised that the left-wing establishment let him go out there and say that, because part of their entire platform is renewable energy and getting rid of oil and gas and getting down to net zero for carbon emissions. So which is it? Some of the attacks against him, though, aside from the whole lying about oil and gas, and aside from non-binary God and multiple 6 genders or whatever the case, they're also coming at him with low T, Talarico, six gender Jimmy. Stephen Miller said that if he cut himself, he'd bleed soy milk, which is hilarious. Some people didn't find that funny. I found that absolutely hilarious. But he is putting forth this view of biblical manhood, and he's right that it's servant leadership is part of the qualities of a true Christian man. But David, Paul, Jesus, they were not these meek, soft men who just went with the flow. They stood for something. They weren't in this perpetual adolescence, and they absolutely were not effeminate in any way. David was a man after God's own heart, and he had a serious rap sheet. Paul murdered Christians while before he had before he met Jesus on the road to Damascus. And we talked about Jesus Christ and how he's both lion and lamb. And so we have James Talarico with this effeminate, ridiculous version of manhood. And then we have Ken Paxton, who they're attacking. And he's a flawed candidate, and we are going to get into, we're going to get into his record, if not in the next show, sometime next week, where we'll talk about all of the things that they're trying to level against him and what actually happened. We'll do a deep dive on that. But this is, and I know we're running out of time. I got to get you out of here. This is a high stakes race where Texas is a firewall against a lot of the nonsense that the left is trying to usher into this country. And I pray that Texas doesn't surrender to this madness. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure that does not happen. All right, y'all. I ran on quite a bit, but I am Big E, and you have been watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch our absolutely fantastic lineup with Sackhead Sean every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. He's been out for a while, and he will be out for another couple of weeks, but he will be back and better than ever. We got Jersey Joe, who also has been out, but you can catch him on Mondays and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. He will be back soon as well. And BZ in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. He will be on in about a half an hour, so be sure to check him out. And then we have Lyle Armstrong with Beer and Bullstein every Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Please like, subscribe, all the algorithm things for all those shows. And pray that we continue to reach as many people as we possibly can. And we are not just here to fill airtime. We're here to try to equip Christian men and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope into the next generation. And if anything that we said here tonight hit a chord with you, please don't just watch it, but share it with another guy and bring him into the fight as well. And if you want to wear what you stand for, head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all the great designs we have there about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And while you're there, check out the SHR shop and check out all the t-shirts for all the guys' shows, and there was some great designs there as well. And remember, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.